Welcome back. It is Issues at Hand, WBS TV. Peter Kivazo, your host. With me, the Honourables Mwanga Kivumbi Butambala and Honourable Simon Mulongo Bubulo East. Why don't we just join it and it is one? It would save me some money in my pocket. Okay, we'll discuss that another day.
East where the wise men come from.
Well, east where trouble has been coming from lately. And I have David Waswa, Assistant Commissioner of Police. David, you've listened to the two gentlemen. Simon raises particular issues about us expanding the span when we look at issues. Do not go with a fixed mind. Honorable Mwanga comes back to that as well and says, wait a minute, the police, when they set out, they already have a mindset and they set out with that. And I need to ask other questions related to our security, if you would like to react to any of them very briefly. But alongside that, do you, as police, know how many guns are out there with the people? Who has them, in what area they're at? Number two, have you dealt with the issue of former combatants, be it former soldiers, be it people that are returning from duty in different countries? Iraq was popular, and Afghanistan, where Ugandans went, got training, did security work, returned to no jobs. Do you know what they're doing and where they're at? And quote unquote, the veterans. Do you know who they are? Do you keep a tab on them? And then the next one that has been raised variously, and you can pick on them independently or as a group, are the issue of your...
Private firms, security firms.
Yes, the private security firms. I see some of them, and they will forgive me, but you look at them emaciated, pathetic, in want of a meal, and they have an assault rifle on them. Previously, you gave them, when I was growing up, it was called Sasirim, single shot manual loader. Now, they have semi-automatic rifles, several of them that I've seen. And I'm thinking, okay, these guys, who monitors them? Who knows where they are? And then your crime preventers. Do they report somewhere every day to someone? Do you know who they are, where they are? Aren't they being used as mercenaries by Kivazo, Mulongo, and Mwanga?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kivazo, and I want to thank the Honourables for the brilliant submissions. First, I think I'll start with the last one, the issue of the private security firms. It's true. Before we have had the challenge of managing. I would call it managing them, coming out of the way they run the operation, the way they recruit their people, the people they recruit into their forces, how they are vetted, how they are brought in, which kind of training they are given, and how do we ascertain that they are ready to go out there to offer security? But that has been, to a great extent, worked on. We have a full department in the police which actually supervises them. We used to have a problem of them becoming an insecurity, whereby they could rob from properties where they are put to guard. And when you try to trace for them, you can't find them because these firms could never have files of where they are coming from. They could never be vetted, and there could be no background information on them. That has greatly changed. Now, in the recent cases that you've probably had, where we've had the private security being involved into robberies or stealing from where they guard, we have gone ahead and arrested them and even recovered some money and some properties. So it has improved in that way. However, even the point of them carrying semi-automatic rifles, these are not actually, it is a kind of modification. No, the pump action guns could either have 2 or 3 bullets inside there. But the modification that has been done is to enable them to carry at least more than two rounds. Okay, to improve it to probably 4 or 5 rounds, you know, that one, but it still remains a pump action rifle. So there are no private security firms probably which are carrying AK-47s, it's 47 rifles. It is an improvement because crime has been growing. You know, you can't compare a security guard of the 1960s and where crime was then to one of today. And that's where we have to move on to another level. But on the issues of the honorables about us, you know, rushing out to conclude on the murder of the late Joan, actually, I don't remember the police outrightly coming out to say this is ADF. Where it came out is in relation to what had been happening in the other, you know, parts of this country, Namaingo, Mayuge, you know, Bwebaja, where we actually have even the suspects who have themselves confessed so. However, the statement that probably came out from the IGP was, we don't rule out ADF having, you know,
doesn't that
having had a step. But he went further to say that we are having our investigations broad. You know, it's general. It could be a murder, it could be an ordinary crime, but it could as well be terrorists. Yes, so that was the response. We don't zero on to ADF. On the perceptual security having died out, I don't know whether when Honorable Kivumbi says that one died out, I probably want to think at what point did it do? Because when you look at our history, you know, the 1960s to 70s, 70s to 80s, I don't know of any time when Ugandans felt secure the way they are today. He has right to say that he's here, he has no gun, you know, but he knows, he's convinced that he will go home, you know. So the dying out, I don't know about it. We could not be at that level where we need to be. But for me, I'm convinced that we are at a level where we are more secure than ever before as a country.
Simon?
Yes. First of all, I also want to agree with the Omulongo police officer about this.
Is that a conspiracy of twins?
Yes, being my twin brother is my senior. Because Mulongo and Lumas have a men's Kato in Uganda. Now, we have gone through a history of violence in this country. Right at the time of the collapse of general stability and security in 1966, the emergency laws that reigned in the Republican constitutional rule until the overthrow of Amin, the reign of Idi Amin, the lawlessness during Obote II, surely everybody in this country testifies to the fact that today the major commodity in terms of a public good sold by the NRM popularly is the question of ability to sleep without certain worries of insecurity. Of course, this doesn't mean that there aren't incidences of insecurity, like murder and so on. But these have been decisively dealt with. We had a wave of, yes, we had a wave of insecurity, say, in the early 2000 in Kampala, when so many businessmen were murdered, that gave rise to the Wembley operation that actually helped to restore security in and around Kampala. And today, the police structure responds to the threat typology in society. The terrorism phenomena has attracted counterterrorism as a matter of institution in this country. The issues of the military, they have been also trained and structured and equipped to respond to the type of threats that the people of Uganda face internally and also externally. So to me, and Uganda has been rated, not just by internal alone, but regionally and internationally, as one of the most stable and peaceful countries on the continent. And I remember last year, Uganda was rated as the most stable country or tourist destination in Africa, and I think even beyond.
And Kampala, the safest.
Yes, the safest city in the world. So I know that doesn't mean that somebody has not been robbed or killed in a certain suburb or certain areas, which we regret and must definitely respond to it. So I want just to say that let's not exaggerate the insecurity, because we have been there. And
hold on, Honorable Mulongo. Because on exactly that, away from John Kagezi, and I said last week that John Kagezi, for you and I and Honorable Mwanga, the elite of this city, she was a palpable feel of one of their own taken. Yeah, the editors have gone to school with her, the lawyers know her, the members of parliament have associated with her. It was Armageddon because she had died and she was one of them. But like Mwanga says, you have a scenario where it is happening in Busoga, it is happening on Entebbe Road, it is happening across board. You have sheikhs killed and like someone is picking grasshoppers, and it's been life as usual. Until falling in the notion of saying, it's not one of us, it's life as usual.
No, I don't think so. As I said, that the fact that there is largely security and stability in the country, it doesn't mean that there aren't certain instances that are worrisome. And these are worrisome. As you can see in Busoga, the police moved in with the entire machinery and they rooted out to the core the authors, the perpetrators. They've been brought to book. And I'm happy that since that day we've not had any additional murder in Busoga. In Kampala,
and we haven't charged them to actually know that indeed there are still suspects. And I remember, I think it is Justice Katureba that warns of the impression that we have created that every suspect we pick up is actually the ultimate criminal.
No, but I'm just making a point that since they were picked, there hasn't been another murder. And that's a statement of fact. Whether there is somebody hiding out there who would cause a killing again, that is something to deal with. So that's one area. The second area is where the issue of tailoring investigations. That will be extremely unfortunate if police tailored investigation to some analogies or pre-investigation conclusions. That would be extremely unprofessional and it would be wrong. What I remember is that the IGP was asked what he thought, his preliminary thinking. And this preliminary thinking can be done by anyone. The assumptions, even in studies you say, these are my assumptions, that characterize your hypothesis before you research. And the conclusion may be either positive or negative to your initial assumptions. And I think General Kaihura should be given the benefit of the doubt until investigations are concluded. My own thinking is what I said. Now, the other one is the issue you raised about terrorism and state counterterrorism. The analogy or the nexus between the two. But the analysts out there, researchers, believe
is it
that
state counterterrorism or actually state-sponsored terrorism?
yes, there are all sorts of forms of terrorism. There are state-sponsored terrorism, where the state abates, organizes, supports, or sympathizes in a certain visible way certain terrorist actions, either within or outside its borderlines. And we have some countries that have been named along those lines. Yes. And then we also have states that are liberal democracies that are actually a target of terrorism. Why? Because these are accountable democracies whose impact, if there is a terrorist incident, the impact is much higher than in totalitarian states like dictatorships. If you look at Eastern Europe, for example, the dictatorships have not experienced as much terrorism in terms of analysis, in terms of research, as democracies. And if you look at our countries in Africa, it is actually those liberal democracies that have been most targets of terrorist organizations, because for them they act on inflicting not only harm but the biggest impact that can ever be. So I find that very interesting, the analogy as you said. So the states, first of all, they must be democracies.
To be attacked?
No, to of course give the freedom, because terrorism is countering that, wants to deny that democracy. So the democracy must fight very hard to resolutely deny terrorism an opportunity to achieve what they want.
Let me ask you a cheeky and interesting question here, Simon. Does that therefore explain what Mwanga calls the magical ability of the police to protect us against terrorism, that indeed they've attacked Tanzania and hit Tanzania the last time very badly because it is a democracy and it is a growing democracy, and so they are doing to Kenya, and therefore they are sparing us because we are an outright authoritarian regime.
They're not sparing us. We have been hit. We have been a subject of terrorism by the ADF,
Yes.
urban. We have been subject of terrorism, rural, by the LRA. We've been a subject of terrorism, urban, by Al-Shabaab here. The November, the July
Sometimes
11th.
I do not take
And,
guerrilla outfits outright as the notion of modern day terrorism.
That's a debate.
Because if someone is an outright declared political fighter, guerrilla outfit, and you're putting them in the same package with
They're
your...
not. They're not. I'm a student of conflict, and there's a huge world apart. The difference between guerrilla freedom fighting versus terrorism. They may employ methods that are similar in certain instances, but the goals, the end state, is completely different, and you cannot compare the two. It's like comparing potatoes and maize flour. But coming back to the point, is that Uganda has not been spared. Uganda is a democracy, a liberal democracy, with the opposition.
On a different day we'll discuss that. On a different day we'll discuss Uganda's democratic credentials.
And so on. So
yes, very briefly, so I go to Honorable
Yeah,
Mwanga.
just 1 minute. You know, when you say we have been spared, or
If we have.
magically, whatever the way you put it,
It's a bit of taking away your thunder.
You know very well of the many attacks we have actually, the arrests we have made. The last year on September 13th, we arrested 13 of them with a complete plan ready to conduct an attack in celebration of the Westgate, the annual after year of the attack, which was going to be actually terrible. And the deterrence we have done is not because of, basically mainly because of we the police being so sophisticated.
The vigilance, yes.
It's because of the public vigilance, and we get this information from the public. So it is not true that we are being spared. These people have, in fact, the reasons they are giving for attacking elsewhere are the very reasons they would give to have us attacked. So it is not sparing, as rightly the Honorable puts it, but it is because of the public vigilance and probably the cooperation we have between security forces and also public and security and public. And
I don't intend to take away. I don't intend to steal your thunder today.
But the signs are there. At least the evidence is there.
I don't intend, David. I don't intend to steal your thunder today. Not at all. Not even mention the terrorist that keeps speaking the Kalita bus from Nairobi and comes and disembarks at the same point, and even when the same bus is actually parked in a garage somewhere and hasn't been on the road. Those are not issues.
You know,
that I'm
terrorism
going to deal
doesn't
with.
start the way the bomb goes off.
But, Honorable Mwanga, every time we mention terrorism, the issue of the global dynamics, you mentioned a span of this continent. You have the Congo that is on our side largely stateless. Is that the East? On our side that is largely stateless. You have South Sudan where government practically is absent, not on duty. It pans straight into Somalia and sections of western Kenya, eastern Uganda, that are terrible. And then goes straight, and now you have Yemen the other side, and then you have the global Arab world that is falling apart. How do we fit in this picture, both as a country and the world? What is the justice system or otherwise that is creating this global terror? Because when we talk of terror, you have 147 killed in Kenya. Boy, that is a horrible number. Anyone, it's a threat. We've been possibly lucky even, I'll put it even to luck sometimes, that we are not direct neighbors on the borderlines of Somalia. Therefore, possibly the fact that they will go into Kenya and then finally get here may be one of our, thank God, opportunities. But now you have Somalia, South Sudan that is stateless as well. As a member of parliament, thinking beyond Uganda, where do we lie? What do we do to safeguard ourselves in a world as such?
First of all, first things first. Peter, action and reaction are always equal and opposite. Simon has mentioned, you are aware that Nairobi is the capital of East Africa.
No, I'm not aware of that.
In business terms,
In
yes.
business terms, global attention, blah, blah, all UN bodies have their headquarters, most of them in Tanzania, I mean in Nairobi. Now, you also have somehow a more accountable government in Kenya and in Tanzania.
You're not using Mulongo's stick, I'm hoping.
And that's why
it's a
on
concept.
every single incident of terrorism in Kenya, you will see a Uhuru Kenyatta addressing a press conference and explain to the citizens. I know, I don't remember on what single day our head of state came out of his
It's
own
a
way.
different countries.
Whether it's Joan or...
Well, I saw him in Bududa. I saw him in Bududa when the mountains buried people in Bududa. I remember him with his AK-47 strapped on his back, not a spade.
So and that is the soft difference.
Those are
Okay?
insinuations. Yes.
Not insinuations, these are actual in terms of perception of those that run the government and how accountable they are. That's why we are left for the IGP to make statements. Then later on, Simon Mulongo comes and say, just take it. He's no ordinary person. He's the IGP. And therefore, his every word counts. Then when you come to issues that are forcing global terrorism, when you go to, when you see what has happened in eastern Uganda, I hope these operations don't force people into more acts of terrorism. You go out of here or where you arrest the entire family, children, mother, father, okay? Hold them for 2 months. Then say, guys, you are free. Walk home. And then the law of the land says 48 hours. You must be brought before a competent court. You go to eastern Uganda and virtually erase the school. Put it down. In Namayingo, in Mayuge, in Mbale, I can mention.
Which schools? In Mbale.
Namayingo, the school is called Namayingo.
And Mbale?
In Mbale is called Nabatsa. Okay? There is another 2 schools in Mayuge. There are 5 schools that were virtually erased. A school in this operation?
Okay. Yeah,
Now-
the word they used was a madrasa. Was
No.
it?
Whether it's a madrasa is a school. Now, you are having a whole community. Then you get somebody and you display them. Say, I've uncovered a terrorist. You have not even aligned that person before the courts of law. What if he's innocent? Now, in those actions, you may drive the entire community into believing they are not safe, they are being hunted down, and they may go out of their own way. So, global terrorism has an element.
And someone here says, gentlemen, beware in Uganda with his Yassin bin Swaleh. He says, in Uganda, we've been painted as if all Muslims are terrorists. Not all Muslims are terrorists. And I find it very hard to believe that Honorable Mwanga, you never address that. You're shy to say you're a Muslim like us and we Muslims are under attack. Please, the police, come out categorically and say Muslims are not under attack and Muslims are not terrorists. They
Yeah.
may be criminals that are Muslims, but so are they criminals that are Catholics and Protestants.
So that's a point I was making.
Yassin.
Yassin, I think, was reading my script. That's the point I was making. That I think a horrible mistake is being, a horrible mistake or error is being committed in this operation to make even non-Muslims believe that the whole lot called Muslims in this country are terrorists. You must take care you must take care. In Mukono, Betty Namboz's constituency, virtually every imam was rounded off. On what Simon comes in to press that, it has been stamped out. Okay? And a Sheikh like Mbazira is here in Chira Road for 5 weeks without being aligned in the courts of law. So, the global, before you go global.
Very briefly, because we need to get out.
Yeah, before you go global, look at these operations. I hope and pray that these policemen don't force Muslims to believing they are unsafe, and therefore all means to protect themselves are justifiable. Now, when you have a very, you see, some of you talk about Yemen and blah blah and Islam. There is no Quran, new one that has been written. It is the old Quran that has been there. What is happening in the Middle East and the Arab world is injustice and exploitation at the hands of the Western world. And I'm not standing here in any way to justify terrorism. But the hand that will stamp out terrorism is not going to be boots and guns on the mountains in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Yemen. They have failed. It's addressing the injustice. They've created and protected a political system in those countries that are virtually dictatorial and exploiting the bigger community. And that has led to terrorism. In fact, the Mujahideens in Afghanistan that give birth to the Talibans were trained by America. And I'm not so sure that ICC is not also a creation of the Western imperial power. So you've got a horrible global system where the West has been part and parcel of radicalizing elements of Islam at one point and exploiting them, but at the same time abandoning that kind of thing.
I want
very, very briefly, because we need to get out. Your parting shot.
I want to put it very clear that there is no persecution of Islam, of Muslims in this country. There have been some unfortunate cases where individuals have used madrasas for personal interests. It has come out very clear. But when we are fighting...
Wait a minute.
Please.
Madrasa? Do you know madrasa?
Look here. The madrasas are good religious institutions. I have
a madrasa cannot be used for those purposes.
This is where someone comes, he makes his home, collects children, and he says to me, this is a religious school called a madrasa. You know, I am educating my children here and I'm teaching them religion.
They don't know the background of Islam. That's why you have a problem.
And
I studied a Quran, okay, on the veranda of a sheikh in my village.
And that was a madrasa.
And that was a madrasa.
Now.
And it was a school to teach.
We have been.
Yes.
He's talking about the same, but he's saying they have been abused.
We have seen children from different parts of Uganda, from Buvumama, Uganda, where being taken to other places. When parents are not aware, they are taken to Mukono, from Mukono to Chivoga. You've seen these on the media houses. You know, when we...
I've seen the children. I need the loop back to the parent. This parent that does not know that their child has been taken and does not report to police and does not complain.
All he's told that we are taking your child to a school in this locality. But the shifting of the children from there to another location and to another location, they are not aware of that. I'm, however, I agree with you very clearly that once we start relating terrorism to religion, then we lose it. But they are also very intelligent people. They know the sensitivity that is there between individuals and our religions. And they know that once we hide, that's why when in Garissa, they are saying for us, we are here to fight for, we've come here to die and, you know.
Thank you. Simon Mulongo, very briefly as we check out of this, Eric Kansime Greens asks, is there any relationship with the escalation of crime with the taking away of the special branch of the police?
I don't think, first of all, we need statistics for us to be sure about that. Statistics to demonstrate that special branch contained crime better than CIID. What I know that police has restructured, and in their reforms, they are handling the function of both special branch and policing within the CIID in terms of criminal intelligence and criminal investigations. Now let me come back to your issue. First of all, the responsibility of the state to protect its people is fundamental. And it is very important, of course, to decipher crime from religious issues. Religious fanaticism, whether Christian, Islam, or Buddhism, whatever it is, has been happening time immemorial. And here, in this case, the question of fundamentalism within Islam is clearly articulated in many, many instances. And if you go after a crime therein, it should be followed as such. And you must separate this fundamentalism with crime. People who commit a crime and yet they are Muslims should not be mixed with faithful Islam people who follow the Islam faithfully according to Quran, according to Hadith, and so on and so forth. So to me, if there is any crossing of the red line, they should raise a flag.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Viewers, the debate is still going on. There are a lot of questions, and certainly watch your security as well. Like Honorable Mwanga was talking about perceptual security. Please look over your wall. Look behind you. Sometimes you're not going to wait for the police. Do a call, do a neighborhood policing. The most you can do as much as you can do, and pray to God that the rest happens. Good night.